It's great how much more open we are about mental health now, really a positive shift.
Absolutely. It's a conversation that needed to happen.
But, even with all the talk about therapy, mindfulness, sometimes I feel like we overlook something really fundamental.
You mean like what we're actually fueling our bodies and our minds with?
Exactly. Nutrition. It seems so basic, but maybe it's more powerful than we think.
Oh, it definitely is. Psychological approaches are, of course, vital, but the impact of diet on our mental state, it's pretty profound.
Okay, let's get into this then. For today's deep dive, we're really focusing on that connection, nutrition, and mental health.
We've got some interesting stuff to look at. An article from the Abundance Therapy Center and also a research piece from PMC. Both shed a lot of light on this.
Right. And our mission really is to pull out the key insights for you, the listener. How does what you eat actually affect your mood, your brain function, your overall mental health?
Yeah, we want to give you practical stuff you can use without getting totally lost in, overly technical jargon.
So, where do we even begin? This whole mind-body thing. It feels intuitive, but the science behind it must be complex.
It is, but a good place to start is probably the brain-gut connection, sometimes called the gut-brain axis.
Okay.
Think of it like a super complex communication network, a two-way street between your brain and your digestive system.
A two-way street. So it's not just the brain telling the gut what to do. The gut talks back.
Exactly. What's happening in your gut absolutely influences your mental state and vice versa. It really highlights how linked our physical and mental health are.
And what's central to that conversation?
A huge part is the gut microbiome. You've probably heard of it. Trillions of tiny microorganisms living in your intestines.
Trillions. It's hard to even picture. I usually just think of them for digestion.
They're crucial for digestion, yes, but their influence goes way beyond that. They're like this massive hidden city inside us doing all sorts of things.
So how do these microbes actually talk to the brain?
Well, there are a few ways. One major pathway is the vagus nerve. It's this long nerve running from the brainstem down to the abdomen, kind of like a direct phone line.
Okay, the vagus nerve, got it.
But that's not all. Your gut itself is actually a major producer of neurotransmitters.
Neurotransmitters. Like serotonin, I thought that was mostly a brain thing.
That's the fascinating part. A really significant chunk, some estimates say up to 90% of your body's serotonin is actually made in the gut.
90%. Seriously. Wow. That completely changes how you think about mood, doesn't it?
It really does. It puts the gut right at the center of mood regulation, not just digestion.
So a happy gut could literally mean a happier mind.
It certainly seems to contribute significantly, and there's more. The microbiome also produces these things called short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs.
SCFAs, okay, what do they do?
Well, some of them, like butyrate, can actually cross the blood-brain barrier. They get directly into the brain and can influence its function.
Directly affecting the brain. Okay, this is getting really interesting. So what happens when that gut environment gets messed up?
Right. An imbalance, maybe from a poor diet, lots of stress, or even illness, can lead to inflammation in the gut. This state is often called dysbiosis.
And that inflammation, it doesn't just stay in the gut.
No. There's growing evidence linking gut inflammation to mental health issues like depression and anxiety.
It's like a domino effect then. Bad food leads to unhappy gut bacteria, lead to inflammation, which then might impact your mood.
That's a good way to put it. And research is constantly finding more details about how specific foods influence this whole gut-brain axis. It really shows why nutrition is such a critical piece of the mental health puzzle.
It really does. Okay, so knowing this powerful connection exists, the logical next step is, what specific nutrients should we be focusing on for a healthy mind?
Good question. Moving on to the nutrients themselves, several stand out as really vital for brain function, mood, and thinking clearly. Let's start with omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA specifically.
Ah, yes, omega-3s. Hear a lot about those. Fish oil, right. But where else do we get them, and what exactly are they doing for our brains?
Right. Fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines are great sources. But you can also get them from plant sources like flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts. They're called essential fats because our bodies can't make them. We have to get them from food.
And their job in the brain.
They do a couple of key things. They're known to reduce inflammation, which we just talked about. And they're literally part of the structure of our brain cells. Think of them as like fundamental building blocks.
Building blocks and anti-inflammatories.
Okay.
And the mental health benefits.
Research links good omega-3 intake to potentially easing symptoms of depression and anxiety, plus improved cognitive function and maybe even lowering the risk of neurodegenerative diseases down the line.
It's quite a list of benefits. Okay, essential fats. What's next?
Next up, B vitamins, especially B6, B12, and folate.
B vitamins. Right. Why are they so important?
They're absolutely crucial for making those neurotransmitters we mentioned. Serotonin, dopamine, GABA. These chemicals regulate mood thinking. Basically how brain cells talk to each other.
So if you're low on B vitamins, that could really mess things up.
Definitely. A deficiency can lead to mood problems, feeling mentally foggy, and it might even increase the risk for certain mental health disorders.
Where can we find these?
Lots of places, thankfully. Leafy greens, legumes like beans and lentils, eggs, dairy, whole grains, quite a variety.
Good to know. Okay, what about vitamin D? The sunshine vitamin, is it really that important for the brain?
It really seems to be. Vitamin D plays a role in serotonin production, and studies link it to better mood and cognitive function.
And lots of people are low, right? Especially if you don't get much sun.
That's true. Many people are insufficient, particularly in winter or in less sunny climates. Food sources include fatty fish again, fortified dairy, egg yolks, and yeah, some sensible sun exposure helps your body make it.
Okay, omega-3s, Bs, vitamin D, what else?
Magnesium. It's a mineral involved in tons of reactions in the body, including brain function.
How does magnesium help mentally?
It helps regulate neurotransmitters, and studies suggest it might help reduce symptoms of depression, anxiety, even stress.
Where do we get magnesium?
Dark leafy greens, spinach, kale nuts, seeds, whole grains, legumes. Lots of good plant sources again.
Seems like eating plants is a recurring theme here. What about zinc?
Zinc is another key mineral. It's important for neurotransmitter function and how brain signals work. It also seems to play a role in managing the stress response. Some research suggests it might help with depression symptoms, too.
And sources for zinc?
Meat, shellfish are rich sources. Also, legumes, seeds, nuts, and dairy have zinc.
It's amazing how these minerals, things we only need in small amounts, can have such a big impact on something as complex as our mood.
Isn't it? And finally, let's not forget amino acids, the building blocks of protein.
Right, proteins. How do they fit in?
They're absolutely vital for making neurotransmitters. For example, the amino acid tryptophan is what your body uses to make serotonin.
Ah, the turkey connection. People always talk about tryptophan and sleepiness after Thanksgiving dinner.
Exactly. Though it's a bit more complex than just the turkey. But the point is, you need enough protein from various sources, poultry, fish, dairy, beans, nuts, seeds, soy, to give your brain the raw materials it needs.
So it's not just about popping a fish oil pill or taking a B complex, is it? It sounds like the whole dietary pattern matters.
You hit the nail on the head. A balanced diet is really the foundation. It ensures your brain gets a steady supply of energy.
Energy in the form of glucose, right? From carbohydrates.
Yes, primarily glucose. And the best source is complex carbohydrates. Think whole grains, vegetables, fruits. They release energy slowly and steadily.
Unlike, say, a candy bar.
Exactly. Simple sugars give you that quick spike, then the crash. That roller coaster can really contribute to irritability and anxiety.
I think we've all felt that sugar crash mood swing.
Right. A balanced diet avoids that. Plus, it delivers that whole range of nutrients we've been talking about, the omega-3s for cell structure, the vitamins, the minerals, antioxidants like vitamin C and E that protect brain cells from damage. It's all working together.
And it loops back to the gut health thing too, I imagine.
Absolutely. A balanced diet, especially one rich in fiber, probiotics from fermented foods, and prebiotics food for the good bacteria, supports a healthy gut microbiome. And we know a healthy gut influences neurotransmitter production, like serotonin.
So are there specific types of diets that are known to be particularly good for mental health, like the Mediterranean diet?
Yes, exactly. Diets like the Mediterranean, which emphasizes whole foods, healthy fats, lots of fruits and vegetables, lean protein. These patterns are consistently linked with better mental health outcomes, lower rates of depression, slower cognitive decline. Anti-inflammatory diets show similar benefits.
And the opposite is probably true as well, diets that aren't so great.
Unfortunately, yes. Diets high in processed foods, added sugars, unhealthy fats, often called a Western diet pattern, tend to promote inflammation, oxidative stress, and they can disrupt the gut microbiome. All factors linked to a higher risk of mental health problems.
Okay, so we have a good idea of what helps. Let's flip it. What kinds of foods might actually harm our mental well-being? Things we should maybe limit.
That's really important to cover, too. Certain foods definitely seem to have a negative impact. Processed foods are a big category.
Convenience stuff, right? Fast food, packaged snacks.
Yeah. They're often high in unhealthy fats, sugar, salt, artificial additives, and low in the good stuff, the nutrients our brains need. Studies have linked high consumption of processed foods to increased rates of depression and anxiety.
It's like they're displacing the nutritious food while adding potentially harmful stuff.
Pretty much. And sugary foods and drinks, we touched on this, cause those blood sugar swings. That means irritability, fatigue, moodiness. Long-term, high sugar intake might even impair thinking and increase risk for mental health disorders.
What about trans fats? Are those still around?
Less so than they used to be, thankfully, as awareness grew. But they can still lurk in some processed baked goods, fried foods. They're really bad news. They promote inflammation, oxidative stress, and can interfere with neurotransmitter function. Definitely linked to depression.
Okay, steer clear of trans fats. What about things like white bread, pasta, pastries, refined carbs?
Right. They act a lot like sugar in the body. They break down quickly, cause those blood sugar spikes and crashes affecting mood and energy. Plus, they're usually stripped of fiber and nutrients, so they don't support gut health either.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Blood sugar disruption, inflammation.
You got it. Those seem to be key mechanisms. We should also mention artificial additives, colorings, flavorings, preservatives. The research is ongoing, but some studies have suggested links to behavioral issues, like hyperactivity in kids and potentially mood changes in some people.
Something to be mindful of. What about things people often use to cope or relax, like alcohol or caffeine?
Good point. Alcohol is technically a depressant. It messes with the balance of neurotransmitters. While a little might feel relaxing initially, excessive intake is strongly linked to increased depression and anxiety, and it definitely impairs thinking.
And caffeine, my morning coffee.
Moderate caffeine can actually be helpful for focus and alertness for many people. But too much caffeine can definitely trigger anxiety, restlessness, jitters, and really disrupt sleep. And if you already struggle with anxiety, excess caffeine can make it worse.
So moderation is key there. Wow, okay. Knowing what to limit is just as important as knowing what to include. This gives us a lot to think about. So what are some practical steps? How can someone listening start making changes?
It doesn't have to be overwhelming. One really effective step is meal planning and preparation.
Like cooking more at home.
Exactly. When you plan and cook your own meals, you control the ingredients. You avoid hidden sugars, unhealthy fats, weird additives. Batch cooking on the weekend can make healthy eating much easier during a busy week.
That makes sense. Takes the guesswork out of it when you're tired and hungry.
Yeah.
What else?
Actively try to bring in more of those brain-healthy foods we talked about. Focus on getting those omega-3s. Eat a rainbow of fruits and vegetables for antioxidants. Choose whole grains over refined ones for that steady energy and fiber. Pick lean proteins.
And snacking. That mid-afternoon slump can be tough.
Snack smart. Instead of reaching for something sugary, go for a combination of protein, healthy fat, and fiber. Take a handful of nuts, some Greek yogurt with berries, maybe hummus and veggie sticks. That provides more sustained energy.
Good ideas. And hydration, does that matter for mood?
Hugely important. Dehydration can absolutely make you feel sluggish, irritable, and foggy. So, drink plenty of water throughout the day, try to limit sugary drinks, and as we said, excessive caffeine.
I definitely feel that when I haven't drunk enough water. Okay, what else?
Try practicing mindful eating. This just means paying attention when you eat. Notice the flavors, the textures. Listen to your body's hunger and fullness signals. Eat without distractions like the TV or your phone.
That sounds like it could help with not overeating, too.
It often does. And consciously try to limit those processed foods and added sugars. Focus on whole, real foods as much as possible. Think about adding probiotics like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and prebiotics, garlic, onions, bananas, asparagus to support your gut health.
Lots of actionable things there.
Yeah. And one last thing. If this feels overwhelming, or if you have specific health concerns or mental health conditions, don't hesitate to talk to a professional. A registered dietitian or a nutritionist can give you personalized advice.
That's great advice. It feels like small, consistent steps are the way to go, rather than a massive, sudden overhaul.
Absolutely. Small changes add up over time and are much more sustainable.
So, stepping back a bit, what's the broader scientific view on all this? Is this nutrition-mental health link widely accepted now?
There's definitely growing scientific consensus and a lot of research interest. As we've said, patterns like the Mediterranean diet consistently show associations with better mental health compared to, say, typical Western diets high in processed foods.
And the research is digging into the why, right?
Yeah.
The mechanisms.
Exactly. They're exploring several key pathways. One is how diet affects blood sugar glycemia. High glycemic index diets, those that spike blood sugar quickly, are linked with more depressive symptoms. Those rapid swings likely affect mood stability.
You mentioned the diabetes link earlier, too.
Right. There's overlap. People with diabetes have higher rates of depression, and researchers see similar issues like insulin resistance and even differences in brain structure and cognitive performance in both conditions. It suggests some shared biology.
And inflammation keeps coming up.
It's a huge factor. We know diet can either promote or reduce inflammation. The Mediterranean diet tends to be anti-inflammatory. High-calorie, high-saturated fat diets can trigger immune activation and inflammation, which isn't good for the brain. Since inflammation itself is linked to mental health conditions, it's a critical pathway.
Is that why some research is looking at anti-inflammatory drugs for depression?
Precisely. Some studies show these drugs can reduce depressive symptoms, which makes researchers wonder if nutritional anti-inflammatories like omega-3s, polyphenols from plants, or the whole Mediterranean diet pattern could have similar effects.
But it's probably not as simple as just eat healthy, cure depression, is it?
No, absolutely not. It's complex. Things like chronic stress or a long history of depression might actually blunt the positive anti-inflammatory effects of a healthy diet for some people. Also, not everyone with depression has high inflammation. So anti-inflammatory approaches might only work for a subset of people, maybe those with what's called an inflammatory phenotype.
Okay, so it's nuanced. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And the gut microbiome is the other big area of research, right?
Yes, diet is probably the single biggest factor influencing the composition and function of your gut microbes. Low fiber, high fat, high sugar diets can damage the gut lining, sometimes called leaky gut, and lead to an unhealthy mix of bacteria.
Whereas healthy diets do the opposite.
Right. Things like the Mediterranean diet encourage beneficial microbes that produce anti-inflammatory compounds, like those short-chain fatty acids we talked about earlier.
I've even heard about studies using probiotics.
Yes, some intriguing research shows probiotics might change how the brain responds to emotional information and could potentially reduce depressive symptoms. But, and this is a big but, we haven't yet proven a direct cause and effect link between specific bacteria and complex human emotions like depression. And we don't really know how long it takes for dietary changes in the microbiome to translate into mood changes. Lots more research is needed.
It's definitely a fascinating and rapidly evolving field. Clearly, nutrition matters, but there's still a lot to unravel.
That sums it up well. And we need to keep the bigger picture in mind, too. Poor diet is linked to obesity and diabetes, and those conditions themselves are linked to poorer mental health.
And crucially, mental illness has many causes, right? It's not always about diet.
Absolutely. We have to be careful not to oversimplify or, worse, use this information to stigmatize people's food choices. Mental illness is complex, and nutrition is just one piece of the puzzle, albeit an important one.
That's such an important point. It's about empowerment, not blame.
Exactly. I think the emerging public health takeaway is that encouraging healthier, nutrient-dense diets and reducing reliance on highly processed junk foods likely benefits both physical and mental well-being. It's a win-win.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main message you want people to take away about nutrition and mental health?
I think the key takeaway is that nutrition isn't just about physical health. It plays a really significant, complex role in how we feel mentally. From the gut-brain communication to these specific jobs of essential nutrients to the overall impact of your eating pattern, what you eat truly influences your mind.
And it's hopeful, isn't it, that even small, consistent changes in what you eat can potentially make a positive difference to your mood, your focus, your overall sense of well-being.
Definitely. Every healthy choice is like a little deposit in your brain health bank account.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener. What's one small, achievable step you could take today to nourish your mind a bit better through food? Maybe it's swapping soda for water, adding some spinach to your eggs, or choosing fruit instead of chips for a snack.
Small steps matter. Keep exploring this, learn what works for you, and remember, if you need more specific guidance, reach out to qualified health professionals.